If there is one genre in both movies and games that I personally have gotten tired of, it is the zombie stories. Like honestly, every time I watch a trailer or commercial, my brain turns off immediately when I see the grave walkers. However, during Sony's E3 presentation in 2018, something different happened. I saw a thriller extra, to which I scoffed, but then a face showed up, to which I... The Resident Evil franchise seems to be an exception to this zombie genre annoyance, but why? Maybe it's the gameplay? The tyrants? The horror? No, if there's one thing that is always discussed when it comes to this series, it's the characters. Not the story necessarily, but the individuals who experience it. Now, the only two characters I've really had any knowledge of before the remake reveal are Chris Redfield and, of course... Every time I see someone else talk about any of these games, one protagonist constantly gets mentioned as the best of the bunch. Leon Kennedy. Leading man of the sequel of the original and the fourth installment, which is widely considered to be one of the greatest games of all time. So, as the remake is here, I feel like looking into this character and figure out how our leading man can go from this...
Jesus! They're everywhere!
...to this! Now, I will primarily focus on these two games, forgetting the sixth one and the movies, just to have a consistent storyline, as I'm not speaking of the overall narrative, but the character journey rather. So having said all that, let's head into the mind of Leon Scott Kennedy. The best way to start is, of course, like always, in the beginning with Resident Evil 2. The remake is out, but that doesn't mean that I will discard the original entirely. The purpose of this video is to look at the journey from being a newbie and scared to goofy and prepared. Not to find the true canon timeline or whatever. We all understand each other?
Good.
Then let's go back to the past, to 1998 AD, the year when Fallout 2, Grim Fandango, Ocarina of Time, Banjo-Kazooie, and so much more was released. But our young 21-year-old Leon had other plans than playing A Bug's Life on the N64, as he was newly graduated from the police academy and on his way to Raccoon City to join the RPD. Now, the boy is actually one day late to his new workplace, and the information to why differs between the games. In the original, according to the manual, Leon stops at a motel, getting drunk as he recently got dumped by his girlfriend. This would really fit perfectly with the story of a fragile heart that he shows off later in the story, but in the remake, he gets a call ordering him to stay away, making him head off a bit later, giving us some look into his nature of helping others, cause his occupation might not be the best evidence of altruism these days. Though things almost went awry just as quickly, as when Leon stops at the gas station, and as he walks in, he finally sees one for the first time. And that is how it all starts, the zombie land. Turning tail immediately for his car, he crashes into our secondary protagonist, Claire Redfield, sister of the legendary rock puncher himself. Realizing that zombies are terrifying, they quickly jump into the car and continue on their journey to Raccoon City. During this drive, we learn that our new character journeyed to this place to find her brother, as she has not heard from him in quite a while. And as he is part of the STARS team, who has their HQ in the police department, they knew that their partnership would work wonders. But... separated by a wall of raging flames, just like my parents, they shout out that they will meet at the station. And here we come to an interesting dilemma. In Resident Evil 2, there are two different scenarios. One where Claire gets into the station first and Leon finds another way in, and the other mirrored. So, as previously mentioned, I will simply take the most important scenes for our protagonist to see how he develops through them. The first scenario worth looking into is the man known as Lieutenant Marvin Brana, who sadly was not as lucky as our hero. And through his mistake, he tells the rookie cop to remember one important fact.
And don't make my mistake. If you see one of those things, uniform or not, you do not hesitate. You take it out. Or you run. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Though he never really got to get that fully hardened heart, as even in the game that takes canonically place 6 years later, he shows an uncertainty when facing an individual with some sort of virus. But we will get back to that later. As right now, Leon's first assignment is pretty much to look for any survivors in the station. And during his quest, he finds quite a few interesting things. His shared office, where there was a celebration to be had, a note from Chris Redfield, where he claims being on a vacation, doing who knows what.
Gotcha! Here's another!
Sadly, no survivors to be seen. He does meet up with Claire, however, deciding that the best course of action is divide and conquer, hoping to find people who need their help. And sadly, there is one person Leon has to help almost right away. However, not in the conventional way.
Hey, Marvin. Marvin! Oh no. Damn it! I'll stop this, Lieutenant. I promise.
Not only did a young 21-year-old lose his girlfriend, but also a potential bromance before it even could begin. R.I.P. Moving onward towards the garage, we have our first encounter with William Birkin. There really isn't anything worth mentioning when it comes to this character and the boss fights with him, as he doesn't really develop our starring man over here, so I will not really talk about the Doctor. Who I will be talking a lot about though, is of course Ada Wong, probably the most integral person in Leon's journey. Claiming to work for the FBI, she immediately walks away from the younger man, causing him to follow her, only to be introduced to character number 2, Ben Bertolo. Never mind then. Looting Uncle Ben of his garage key, Leon also finds an old tape recorder with an interview between the journalist and someone called Annette Birkin. The contents hints at something darker behind the scenes, which is the beginning of our hero's involvement. Before he can take that information anywhere, however, someone has to give him something. This is Mr. X, or more officially known as the Tyrant. During the entirety of Resident Evil 2, at least the remake, this unstoppable force are hunting down Kennedy and Redfield throughout their adventure. And considering Leon's reaction to the first zombie, just imagine his horror when he first saw this monstrosity.
Shit.
What? Ugh, whatever. The fedora-wearing fiend's part of the police officer's growth isn't that different from Birkin's antagonism. His function is more of having something unstoppable hunting down our boy. Alright, we've pretty much only had action so far, so let's continue to a moment where our character actually shows us some development. As when Ada and Leon go down to the sewers, we see... Finally, we actually get some character progression here, as when the duo is trailing through the smelly abyss, our rookie over here is finally putting something straight.
Look, Ada, as an officer, it's my job to look out for you. But we're not going to get through this alive if we don't work together, okay?
All right. We'll do this your way.
Leon Kennedy has always wanted to be a cop, to protect and serve, and while his first day didn't pan out the way he had expected, that does not mean that he will run away from it all. In the remake, this scene is different, as he meets a father with a turning daughter who screams at him on how this all could have happened, before ending it all for the small family.
Helping people like them? That's why I joined the force.
Exclaiming that he wants to put a stop to whomever is behind all this calamity, our hero and Ada comes to one understanding. Together they will work to put an end to Umbrella's operation. And Leon proves to be an exemplary teammate, as when they meet Annette Birkin, who may be in possession of the G-Virus, our hero jumps in front of Our Lady when the scientist shoots at them, taking a bullet for the young FBI agent. And to reciprocate this action, Ada Wong leaves the bleeding man in pursuit. That's hella wrong! Luckily, the remake makes it a bit better by making her patch up the younger man before leaving rather than way later. Hence, I forgive her. For now. Waking up, Mr. Kennedy immediately runs off the lady in the red dress, and while both games differs here in some area, the focus is on Leon saving Ada in some capacity. Whether it is from being trapped by a piece of shrapnel, or, of course... Shit! So even when the Vixen states that he should get out of there, as the situation apparently has gotten worse, he refuses, stating that he can't leave her behind.
Didn't realize we were keeping score.
So on their way to the nest, Umbrella's main laboratory in Raccoon City, our duo finally has a moment. where they can sit back and relax. No Mr. X, no virus-infested scientist, nor zombies. And during this moment, Leon makes it quite clear that he trusts.
What if you need help?
Motivated now, with not only the determination of bringing down Umbrella, but also the power of Bonar. It does not take long for our young boy to not only find the sample of the G-Virus, but also bump into Annette. And as she is slowly dying from her wounds from her husband, she exclaims that Ada is not an FBI agent, but a mercenary. We see disbelief on our hero's expression, but even if he is there on his first day of work, that does not mean that he is a fool. Evidence simply being that he confronts the lady in red, creating a tense situation for the both of them, having him ask if he was just a pawn to her, to be used and cast aside, shouting that he has to do his job as a policeman, bringing her in. However, instead of pulling the trigger, the mercenary pulls down the curtain of trickery, exposing her feelings.
And you shoot me. But I don't think you can.
We can't have a happy ending, though.
Hello there.
From the frying pan to the oven, when the life of a loved one is threatened, a glimpse of what truly matters to our hero is illuminated. Holding on to his potential happiness with all that he has, he claims that she is worth it, telling her to stop insinuating that he has to let go to make sure that they both doesn't fall. But as she sees that he is unwilling to do so, she makes the decision herself.
Take care of yourself, Leon.
No!
From disappointment to sadness is what grips Leon right after what one could consider a betrayal. One individual should be happy though.
Mission accomplished.
What else we are given here, at least in the original game, as the virus sample in the remake simply falls down the pit, is that after Ada falls, the bitter man throws it in rage, angered by the fact that it was the MacGuffin that pretty much caused all of this. But after that, he has to run, as the entire facility is about to blow up. Nothing noteworthy happens during the Great Escape, aside from getting some revenge on Mr. Marks the Spot and Dr. Higu, ending with the crestfallen Leon surprising himself in missing Miss Wong, and leaving Raccoon City with Claire and the daughter of William and Annette Sherry, making it their new quest in bringing down Umbrella.
It's up to us to take out Umbrella.
Straight after this, Redfield runs off looking for her brother, leaving the two others to be taken into custody by the government, where the big US wanted to recruit Leon, seemingly because of his experience dealing with the Zombros. Now, what happens during the 6-year gap between the two games isn't worth going too in-depth into. The young man gets some training in weaponry and martial arts, he goes on a mission with Jack Krauser, and at the end of everything becomes the personal bodyguard of the presidential family, meaning that when the president's daughter gets kidnapped, we finally get to...
Resident Evil 4.
This game seriously has everything narratively. Badass main character? Check. Over the top yet intriguing and well-developed co-stars? Double check. Rasputin? Duh! We even see that the policeman never left our hero.
Freeze. I said freeze! Kick!
Resident Evil 4's narrative is pretty simple altogether, far much so than the game we just went into. Ashley Graham has gotten kidnapped by a hidden cult named Los Illuminados, who may or may not have a devious plan with a virus of some kind, Las Plagas, making our boy having to equip his red cape once more. What is great here is the more mature Leon S. Kennedy that we get to enjoy throughout the entire adventure. When he was confronted by someone considered devilish in Raccoon City, he chose his words with great caution. But here?
I've sent my right hand to dispose of you.
Your right hand comes off?
His call to action also has heavily changed. Remember how he reacted to the tyrant in the police station? This is him now!
Monsters. Guess after this, there'll be one less to worry about.
But that doesn't mean that he is a completely different individual from the roots. When chained together with Luis Serra, a man who did research on the Las Plagas virus, Leon does reflect on the stuff that he has been through. Plus, we see plenty of times when he is in fear, whether it be seeing someone he cares for in danger or confronting massive beings of doom. Tension is also on the menu when his own life is put into danger as Osmond Sadler, the leader of the group, injects him with the psychotic mutagen that has turned the entire village into crazy murderers. Yet he still puts the safety of others before his own preservation. Plus, when that realization hits, it gives our new duo the quest of finding a cure. Now, his extreme confidence doesn't come out of nowhere, as during his mission with Krauser, he did go through some rather remarkable situations, and Ashley isn't the only character to build on our boy's development. He is in contact with some people back home, represented by Ingrid Hannigan, the previously mentioned Luis Serra, and of course, Ada Wong, who not only survived the fall all those years ago, but who is currently working with the series antagonist, Alberto Wesker, much to the discomfort of our hero, though he begrudgingly can't do anything about it as he is on a rather dangerous time limit. Evidence simply being that the virus is spreading pretty quickly, starting to take hold of the 27-year-old. Luckily for our hero though, is that the FBI agent is still, whenever close by, helping him out, be it from a crazy chainsaw-wielding Spaniards, Sadler, the lover of the Russian queen, or Krauser. Oh yeah, that's right, I forgot about him. So the relationship between the two Americans has pretty much only been professional, so there really isn't anything of worth noting here when it comes to Leon's character. Jack did feel a great amount of jealousy towards him, but on Kennedy's side, not much to work with, so... What is much to be worked on, however, is the connection between Ashley and Leon. I'm talking physically here because my lord, she doesn't have to stop getting kidnapped so many times. I mean, sometimes it's because of her own stupidity, other times it's the mad monk who sends out troops, etc, etc. But our man takes it like a champ, constantly following her, making sure that she is alright. If Claire protected Sherry like no tomorrow in RE2, the police officer is the guardian of this fair maiden. Though even if he has gotten used to the danger, the insanity, or the very idea of being in a monster-infested area, one place he never seemed to improve is on how to take human loss. Luis Serra is more of an acquaintance than anything, and during his final breath at the hand of the cult leader, Leon is screaming out the man's name in sadness. Louis! And this all eventually culminates in a confrontation with every antagonistic force in the game, burning Vittorius Mendes in the pure red building, defeating the corrupted hitman Krauser on top of the castle, destroying Salazar, and getting rid of the Las Plagas that's within the duo. Gaining the help of Wong, the presidential bodyguard ends up beating the psycho cult leader the only right way in Resident Evil, with a bazooka. Playing it like it was old times, Ada steals the Plaga sample and activates the self-destruct sequence of the island, having our heroes jump on the jet ski, boosting out of the hellish area.
Hang on, sweetheart.
During the way back, after declining the girl's request to bone, Leon is surprised by Ashley's question on who the lady in red was, giving us the perfect answer that one could expect from the experienced, strengthened, young policeman.
So, who was that woman anyway?
She's like a part of me I can't let go. Let's leave it at that.
Leon Kennedy wanted to be a police officer for one single reason: to help others, to protect and serve. But on his very first day, he was already too late. Having a superior officer tell him to not hesitate to shoot those he wanted to protect if the situation calls for it, to being betrayed by a woman who claimed to care as much as he did. But even in that moment, we see how his naivety, his borderline pure-heartedness, made that betrayer betray her own directive. He may have changed significantly through the years, seeing more and more of the darker parts of the world, looking at the jaded comedic side of everything rather than trying to appeal to the good of the ones he may hold responsible. But when it comes to what lies deepest down, he still cares about people, and that is something he will never let go of. And that is the mind of Leon Scott Kennedy. Hi there, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please leave a like and subscribe if you're interested in watching some of my future stuff. If you're unsure if you want to do that, however, you can watch some of my previous In the Minds Ofs. I did one of Dante and Nero from the Devil May Cry series. I will also like to say that I do stream a lot, and I'm gonna, as I'm speaking of Devil May Cry, I'm gonna stream DMC 2 soon. Yes, that game. So if you're interested, in the description below, my Twitch channel. You can look at my schedule there as well, or you can follow me on Twitter, where I will update you. Now, was there anything in this video specifically that I missed that could strengthen or weaken my points? I'm curious, please write it down below, and yeah, thank you again.